Don't mock. I'm not a fool. And people who know me personally know that I am not a fool. But I won't get into the details of those. I just want people to realize that I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool.
And hey there and welcome. It's Tony Curl here and welcome to episode 67 of the Dumb Leaders podcast. And all I can say is thank God for the 30-day snooze option that we've got in Facebook. So what do you mean by that, Tony? Well, can I tell you, there have been so many people that I know that have dived down the rabbit hole of the conspiracy theories that surround COVID-19. Yes, I know COVID-19 has impacted just about everyone in the world, and some of it just doesn't make sense. We know that. Some of the actions taken by government, taken by leaders, taken by, politicians have certainly not made a great deal of sense. However, in saying that, it's then exaggerated and escalated by the fact that we've got people sitting at home with lots of time on their hands. And when things don't make sense, we'll often go looking for something to try and make some sense out of that. And this is where the real challenge of our mindset comes in, because if we're looking for something to make sense of what we're not making sense of, we start to view and slant the things that we're seeing and reading into a narrative that supports, those conspiracy theories. And we've seen a lot of them. And it's been interesting. So I'm really grateful for the 30-day snooze option that we've got in Facebook, because when you start to see someone going down that rabbit hole of conspiracy, you can go through, and because that from an energy point of view, that's just you see someone getting on their high horse, becoming hysterical, becoming, absolutely hysterical about some of these conspiracy theories, the Illuminatis, the theys of the world. They just don't want you to know. It's just going to take your energy. So to be able to snooze them for 30 days while they dive into their rabbit hole is just a fantastic option. Now, when you come out of that snooze period, if they're still going, well, you've got to question their ongoing sanity in so many ways, shapes or form. And I'm not talking about neglecting and walking away from good people. I'm just saying there are a number of people there that have dived down the rabbit hole. And one in particular that stands out to me is a person in my network who has moved countries to study. And while they were here in Australia, they were running a company called Strategic Intelligence or Strategic Emotions or something like that. So it was all about positive psychology, and it was all about, how to deal and control with our own emotions. And when I saw that person diving into the rabbit hole and starting to link 5G with COVID-19, I just knew that they were in a unit by themselves, worried about the world and trying to find something that made sense. So, but the damage that going into the conspiracy world really it threatens us more than anything else. So we don't want to be mindlessly accepting, and we do want to question, but there comes a limit as to what that would look like. So, for example, when we're talking about this 5G link that we have with the spreading of a coronavirus. Now, just going out there and doing some research around that would indicate that there was a very tenious link between what turns out to be a 4G tower, and in in Europe, I believe it was, with some dead birds. Now, the tower was turned on for a test period, and then 3 months later, there was a considerable time period, there was this phenomenon of dead birds in this particular park. And there was a tenious link created by one person saying it was all about the 5G tests that they did on this particular tower that killed those birds 3 months later. However, in that original article, it was the 3 months later wasn't necessarily put in there. So once again, we went looking for a link, we found a link, and then we created even more of a link with some misinformation. So all of a sudden, and that's been debunked time and time again, but the problem when people debunk some of this stuff is that people say, oh, who's paying you to debunk that? You know, there's no one paying me to debunk that, but I just like to believe that, you know, there's always more than one side of the story. And in this particular case, I actually believe that, yes, the waves that are emitted from mobile phones are probably dangerous in some way, shape or form within us, even though consistently tests would indicate they aren't. But probably more of the use of the mobile phone itself is more dangerous. You know, the way that we walk by looking at it and drive while looking at it, that's probably more dangerous than any sort of rays or technology that's being emitted by it. So the reality to me is that it was a tenious link. 5G is not going to harm you. 5G is not going to blow up the world. It's just another... in fact, I read an article that indicated some of the earlier technology of, you know, modular waves and whatnot were probably more dangerous. But anyway, but diving in and saying and suggesting that 5G is created and caused the transmission of a human virus is just simply ridiculous. And, you know, you do any sort of research in and around that and that would indicate. But if you're listening to and looking for something, of course you're going to find it, because the way we view things is the way we do things. And that's one of the real challenges that we see with a lot of the misinformation that was spread. You know, you look very early in the piece of COVID and you see those memes that came out allegedly from the World Health Organization that were informing people not to have sex with animals, you know. And that's just mischievous misinformation. Someone's done that as a bit of a joke, I would imagine, and then all of a sudden it became gospel that came out from the World Health Organization with a lot of people. Once again, mischievous misinformation designed to mislead. You know, we're now seeing, and, you know, this one could be quite relevant. We're now, you know, we're seeing China get blamed for this, and quite rightly so. It did come from China. But now we're also seeing things like it's come from Russia. It's been designed by Muslim terrorists. You know, that it's but the one that needs to be explored, of course, is the one that Wuhan, and was it a virus that was actually created within a one of the laboratories over there? Now that's one that will come out in due course, and there's probably some credence to that. But the reality is that, was it a bioweapon from China to disable the world so that they could take over? You know, yes, I believe that China has probably got some really big, serious questions to answer in relation to the virus, and probably has some requirements for compensation on the world economy because, you know, seriously, it's shot. But whether it was a deliberate thing or not is probably being, once again, a little bit mischievous. So when we look at some of these other conspiracy things that we see out there, and, you know, there's a number of different places where you can go and check the validity. I mean, but, you know, even just recently, I saw a friend of mine post that some person, and, you know, the name's on the tip of my tongue, but I'm not going to mention it anyway, because a person was deplatformed by Facebook and YouTube because of the videos and the conspiracy theory videos that they were sharing. Now, and they were making a big song and dance saying, why don't they want to hear the truth? Why have they been deplatformed, etc., etc.? Well, truth is to our own perspective and to our own perception. And the reality is, if this person is peddling misinformation, and which is ultimately dangerous, they've got every reason and every right to be deplatformed. But it's also something that I want you all to think about. If you really want to own the platform. Like, if YouTube's got the right to be able to say, no, you're not on the platform. Facebook has that right. Twitter has that right. It's their platform. They make the rules. So you don't automatically have a right to be on that platform. So if you want to share your views, own the platform. Do your own thing. Own the platform. So, and don't blame these, and don't say the Illuminati or they are trying to silence people, because ultimately they've got a right to be able to say who goes on and who goes off. And there is a limit to free speech. We all like to believe the concept of free speech, but when free speech is dangerous and wrong and evil, I think we do have the right to limit that, because we do have the right to free speech as long as it's not harming people. And if you're spreading misinformation, and I've seen it time and time again where good people on Facebook will share something without doing the research, it just annoys me. It really does. Look it up. Go to Snopes, go to Wikipedia, and you'll certainly be able to indicate whether what you're reading is actually true. Is what you're sharing going to create more misinformation, or is it going to be something that you're changing the world with? Because at the end of the day, the conspiracy theories surrounding COVID-19. Now, everyone in the world wishes COVID-19 hadn't have happened. I'm pretty certain that most people in China would be thinking the same thing. I wish COVID-19 never reared its ugly head. But the reality is that it has, and we've been trying to deal with it. And yes, there's lots of questions about stats and numbers, in any number of countries. I mean, I question the figures that are coming out of America at the moment, because you're looking at the recovered rate in America, and it's abysmal. It's only like 10%, yet you're looking at the recovery rate here in Australia, and it's like high 80s. So 80% of the people are recovering. So there's only a very small amount of active cases. Yet in America, everyone still seems to have it. I don't get that. I don't understand it. I just think it's a failing of their system more so than anything else. But is it a conspiracy theory? I don't know, So you've just got to be mindful. Yes, question, but don't dive in the COVID rabbit hole. It hasn't been caused by 5G. It hasn't been caused by people having sex with animals. It's not an anti-Muslim thing. It's not an anti-Israel thing. It hasn't. I mean, we've still got to find out whether it's been bioengineered. We've still got. We've got a conspiracy theory in India that's saying it's a bioweapon that's gone rogue. In Ukraine, they're sharing that some American author predicted the pandemic. There's a movie out called The Plandemic. My God, people, we've got to look for things that are real, not look for some people that are spreading an opinion or a thought process. Just like you've got the right to be able to say to whether you want to listen to me or not. That's your right. But please don't share misinformation that can really make it worse for the population. Donald Trump got slated for asking the question about could some things be taken internally, which then caused a huge proportion, or much huger than what I thought would have been, of people starting to ingest things like disinfectants. And, oh my God, are people that stupid? Seriously. It's just, there are some questions about COVID-19. I'm not saying that there aren't. I'm not accepting everything that I'm seeing in the media as gospel, but there's a limit to where those questions go. I don't know what the answers are to some of that. I don't know why American death rates are much greater than anywhere else. I don't even understand why America would be checking probable causes of death to COVID-19. I don't even understand that concept. If someone dies of a heart attack, they die of a heart attack. It's not COVID-19. But from all reports, from what I'm seeing, what I'm reading, and some of the press are reporting, is that all of a sudden, and you see it on the world world meter stage where probable causes of death, COVID-19. Probable causes. So we're seeing this death rate escalate, but no one's recovering from COVID-19 in the US. So why are they building a case for compensation? I don't know. And I suppose it's all going to come out in in due time. So what I really wanted to just talk about today is just the concept that don't dive in the rabbit hole. Look at things from both sides of you. Try and find, if you're finding something that supports your point of view, try and find something that opposes your point of view. And try and get that balanced argument coming in to you. Don't dive down the rabbit hole. Don't look for things that support a viewpoint that simply aren't there. Really, it is dangerous. It's dangerous to your own health. The reality is that we're in isolation. That's challenging enough. But being isolated in angst is something that you really don't need. Don't dive down the rabbit hole. Look after yourself. Take care. Together we will get through this. But but please take it easy on yourself. Yes, there are some questions. I don't fully understand everything that's gone on and why it's gone on. But I don't understand at the moment. We're coming out of recovery. We're seeing very minimal new cases every day here in Australia, yet they're still wanting to keep us locked up. And I understand that politicians and the governments have really challenging things. And I know that whenever they release the guidelines, there's this whole portion of the population that start talking about the lack of social distancing that is being exhibited. But seriously, when we're seeing no deaths on a regular basis and we're seeing no new cases on a regular basis, I'm really perplexed why we're still being told to stay at home and being locked up. That's a question. That's all it is. But I'll wait for the time that I'm released. I'm not going to go looking for the Illuminati that are forcing us to do this so that they can build their riches. The reality is that I know that there's decisions being made in government, in cabinets, by politicians, by prime ministers, by premiers, that they're considering quite strongly, because all of a sudden they don't want to see the situation worsen. But is it a case that we can eradicate this thing? No, I don't believe so. Is it a way that we've got to learn to live with this thing? Yes, that's more like it, and that's what we've got to do. We're not going to learn to live with this thing until we can clear ourselves of all this conspiracy bullshit that's going on, because it's not good for you. And that's my 2 cents on conspiracy and the COVID-19. The 30-day snooze option in Facebook is absolutely fantastic, and hopefully within those 30 days people have started to right themselves and pull themselves out of those rabbit holes. This is episode 67, I think, of the Dumb Leaders Code podcast. Until we talk again, I'll see you then.
Don't mock. I'm not a fool. And people who know me personally know that I am not a fool. But I won't get into the details of those. I just want people to realize that I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool.